All right, my friends, you want to be sponsored, right? That's the topic for today. You're a photographer, you're in the video world, photo world, you want to be sponsored. You were like, how do I get sponsored? Oh my God, I want to be sponsored by like this person and that person and the gear and money and blah blah blah. It's so amazing. And there's a lot to go, that goes on. So let's tackle this now. Guys, I'm Roberto Valenzuela. I'm here to discuss after 20 years of being in this beautiful, incredible industry that I love with all my heart. I have had a fair share of experiences with sponsorships, how to get them, how to lose them, how to keep a great relationship with them, how to make sure that you can get them without being so restricted. There's just a lot of different things that go into sponsorships. There is a price to pay also when you start becoming sponsored by companies. There's like something, there's checks and balances to everything. It's not all positive. So there's some things to think about. Here's what I want to say to you very quickly. And it's gonna sound funny to you, but I'm fine with it. So just roll. Relationships with companies are developed the same way you try to court a girl to date, or you try to court a guy to date if you're a girl, or whatever combination of that. Okay? It is basically the same thing. Would you go to a girl that you don't know, a stranger, and be like, "Hey guys, guess what? My name is Jamie, whatever. I'm a photographer in Nebraska. Yeah, I would love to be your husband. And let's totally make love. That will be amazing. Let's make love right now because I want to talk to you right now about possibly making love with me in the future because I got, 6,000 followers on Instagram. My engagement is 32 comments average, and I probably get about 180 to 250 likes per post. So, I'm here just letting you know that I'm interested in possibly marrying you. Okay? What's going to happen to that girl that when you approach her like that? Besides calling the cops on you and getting a restraining order on your ass, you're never going to get that person to even speak to you ever again. You're basically become blacklisted. Okay? So, yes, I understand the need for sponsorships, just like I understand the need for companionship if you're a human being. But the way to go about it is to know that there's a bridge. There's a bridge between point A and point B. Point A is you're a stranger, and point B is you're sponsored by that company, or you're in their family, or you're married to them. Because the same thing as a marriage is the same thing as a company sponsoring you to some extent. Now, there are companies out there, which I will not name out of respect, that they just pretty much sponsor everybody because they're just trying to take away people from everyone else. They're trying to basically take all the fish out of the ocean for themselves because they can and because they're not going to take care of you. And you don't know that because as a photographer, you're probably so obsessed with getting sponsored by these companies that you'll take it. You'll just take it right with no, you'll just take it. You know what I mean? I was going to say a joke, but I decided to not to do it. Okay? Because companies know that photographers are desperate for sponsorships, most of them don't have to bother doing much for you unless you're the person that provides massive value to that company, and then everything gets flipped. All right? But let's just begin with how to approach a relationship with a company. Okay? And remember, it is the exact same way as you would initialize a relationship or any kind of courting with a girl you would like to marry eventually. Because at the end of the day, getting sponsored by a company is like marrying that company, and you become part of their family. Right? Just like a guy becomes part of the family of a girl. If they get married, they become husband and wife, your family. If you're sponsored by a company, your family. So, and it is exactly like that because you get to choose your family in sponsorships. It's not like it's your brother or your sister or your atomic family. It's actually a person that you don't know. At one point, all of you listening did not know your wife or your husband. You did not. You were at some point you were a stranger to those people. And there was that initial meeting that brought you guys together. That initial meeting that brought your world and her world into the same world. And that meeting went well because you're married to them at this point. So how do you do that? It has to be based out of three things. It has to be based, actually three with one thing floating. The first one is respect. Okay? They have to respect who you are as an artist. Okay? So how do you gain that respect? You gain the respect by getting yourself out there, okay? You gotta grow a pair and get on a webinar and say it on Facebook that you're gonna do a webinar on this or that, and you're gonna have 3 people show up and you're gonna be depressed and devastated, but it doesn't matter because you're doing it. And then the next week or the next month or whatever the cycle is, you do another one. and then you do a PDF and you put it on Facebook about some things I learned about the last portrait session I did with a high school senior, blah, blah, blah. Or you create videos on YouTube and you say, I did a session, I made a mistake, here are my mistakes, here's how I'm going to fix them the next time. I hope this helps. See you later, bye. And eventually, all these little pieces of, like I call breadcrumbs, right? All these little breadcrumbs end up getting picked up by the birds, right? The birds pick up the breadcrumbs because they see it, and then they fly away, and then they cannot carry all the breadcrumbs, so they throw the breadcrumbs in the floor in other parts of the city or whatever. And eventually, the same thing happens to you. Your little breadcrumbs that you're putting gets picked up by people, and then they start basically scattering. Those people start sharing it on Instagram, sharing it on Facebook, sharing it on TikTok, and those crumbs start to become more broad. So what you think is just you and your little computer in your kitchen doing a webinar eventually becomes, it reaches the whole state. And eventually the whole state increases to a region. And that region increases to the whole southwest of the United States or whatever region you're in. And it just keeps going and going. You don't chase the numbers. You chase consistency. You chase value. You don't chase, look at me, look at me. You chase, I'm here, I'm going to help you with what I've learned. I'm here to bring value to you. I'm going to try to do it whether you agree with me or not. I'm just putting it out there. Public domain, public domain. The more you're publicly out there, the more breadcrumbs are going to be spread around. Eventually, people will be drowning in breadcrumbs from you because they cannot get away from you, right? I mean, it's just like you go to Spain and people know who you are. Do you know this photographer named blah, blah, blah? Oh, yeah, I've heard of him. That's a breadcrumb that got picked up all the way from Spain. Or do you know this other photographer? Oh, yeah, they do these little videos on YouTube and they're pretty helpful. They don't have a following, but I really find them cool and they're kind of like personable and they smile and they're fun. So when you provide value, and you're doing it consistently and you're bringing value to the audience, that's, my friends, how you get respect, okay? Then you have trust. You have to have trust. Trust comes from you being a person that they can trust in the industry. So you're not a person that's talking trash about others online. If you become a hater, or if you become one of those people that likes to get attention by talking bad about other companies or other friends, then people in positions of authority are going to think, is that a person we trust? And the answer is no. Because if they do that to a friend on public domain, that it's obviously in them to do the same thing to you the minute they have a disagreement with you as a company. They're going to go online and trash you. And you don't want that. So you don't trust them. So you don't even go there. You go the other way. Okay? And the next one is friendship. Friendship. You have to have a friendship with these people. So you have to be legitimately friends. Okay? You cannot just go and force a friendship. Let the friendship organically develop. And how do you do that? You do that by being in their circle. So if you want to hang out with this girl, if you want to marry this girl, you're not going to do that if you live in Bangkok, right? And she lives in Nebraska, right? You cannot have to be in her sphere. So try to find things where that person may be and be part of that world. So if you know that girl goes to the WPPI, then you go to the WPPI. If you have a friend in common, then try to arrange like a dinner with everyone, like a group of people, and then you're part of that group, and then you get to be in dinner with that girl, and then you can possibly sit next to her or not. But if you do not sit next to her, it will make you look like you don't care. And when you don't care, or you put the perception that you don't care, it makes you more desirable to the other person. The more the other person thinks you're obsessed with them, the opposite takes place. Okay? If a company feels like you're obsessed with them and you just have this like one-minded goal, like I want to be sponsored by you, I want to be sponsored by you, you're gonna get the whole treatment of the police being called on you and the restraining order being put against you because you're just a creep. It's creepy, okay? It comes out creepy, people. Stop it, okay? You want to be cool, right? If you're sitting down at a dinner with a girl you like, sit wherever. Don't worry. There will be a chance where you guys can talk. People swap chairs. People move around. They start talking to that person. You move to get a drink. Then you go to the bathroom and you come back and you finally find yourself sitting next to her. But the girl doesn't think that you were just pushing your way in there. Okay? You just happen to be sitting next because you happen to say hi just like another person in the table. You have to treat these companies like just people. Treat them well. don't treat them nice. Don't be obsessively going after them. Okay. What happens when a company comes after you? A company wants to sponsor you, and you don't know what to do because you know the product, but you don't know it that well. But you kind of want to feel important because you're getting sponsored by them. How do you handle that? Yes, there is a mental shortcut that people take. That if they see that you're sponsored by a company, they automatically think you're a person of authority. You have somewhat made it to a higher level than they have. There's opportunity to see your work more because this company can push it out. So there is advantages, and that's why people want to be sponsored by companies. But what about the other side of the sponsorship? The sponsorship comes with some restrictions, right? It's called a contract, and you better read that contract because that contract can say you cannot use any other competing gear for whatever amount of time. This is not negotiable. So there is the price that you start to limit yourself from a creative point of view because you cannot use every tool at your disposal. You have to stick to the tools that that company gives you for that. For example, a lighting company or a bag company or a software company. Like if you really like to use one software, you cannot go and start using another software for AI retouching because you're sponsored by this other one. Same thing with bag companies, same thing with everything. So you start to become restricted, okay? And so what the restriction does to your career, it's up to you to decide. If it's worth it, then go for it. If it's not, then be careful and don't do it. There's the power of no is huge, okay? With the power of no, if you like a girl, or yeah, if you like a girl and you show total interest in that girl and you're just like all over her, she's never going to see you as a potential mate. She's going to see you as a creeper, or at best she'll see you as her friend, or, oh, you're like a brother to me. Okay? That's what you're going to get. You're never going to be attractive to those people. What's attractive is when they don't think you care about them. Okay? It's psychology. It's like some weird reverse psychology phenomenon when the guy gives attention, but then takes away the attention because he's talking to other people too. He doesn't care. He just gave you 5 minutes, but he's talking to others. You start to feel like this person is attractive because they're not just going after you. Whether you like the person physically or not, you find at least their character traits attractive. Okay? That's a little bit of the power of no. When you become a person that's sponsored by every company that comes to you, whether you use that company or not, you become a sponsorship whore. Basically, that's what they call them. And a sponsorship whore gets a short-term boost of credibility and a long-term boost of disaster consequences because you will no longer have the respect of anybody because nobody can trust you because you're just a guy that takes everything from anyone and you don't care because you're doing it for yourself. You become, your authority goes away or gets heavily dinged when you're sponsored by too many companies. When you're sponsored by companies that are not so many, but then you leave companies, okay, you start to potentially create another problem, which the way I see it is like those little Russian dolls, where you have the little doll and you have a smaller doll inside and a smaller doll inside, and it just keeps getting to the smallest one. When the smallest doll is inside or anything near that gets cracked or broken, or you don't want to be part of that relationship anymore, you could potentially damage the way other companies or the other little dolls see you. Okay, for example, there are many times where people find it appropriate, which is totally not, but they think it's cool to go online like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, you want to do, and say, and I'm making this announcement, which by the way, nobody gives two craps about, but people say, oh, I'm leaving this company. And you do it because you want to get a jolt of engagement in your social media for like 2 days or something. So you do this short term, like, I'm going to go ahead and try to get attention for myself because I'm trying to get attention for myself. And you go on Facebook and you make the major mistake of telling people, and then you're like, yeah, but I'm going to do it in a smart way. I'm going to do it with a bullshit sandwich, which is I'm going to compliment the company that I'm leaving. Then I'm going to say why I'm leaving. And then I'm going to finish off with some gratitude or some fake bullshit gratitude or another fake bullshit compliment or whatever you want to do. Do you really think people don't smell that crap? Do you not think that the company that you're talking about is not going to think this is terrible for them? And when you do that, how do you think other companies are going to feel about you? For example, that's the trust issue. Do we trust this person? No. You are no longer going to trust a person that's going to go online and pull the bullshit sandwich of why they're leaving a company. And you are not going to sit there and be like, oh, I did it so well because I totally did it with a bullshit sandwich. The only person you're bullshitting is yourself, okay? If you do the bullshit sandwich, first of all, I hate to say this, but nobody cares about you joining another company or you leaving another company. Nobody cares. It's okay to talk about you joining a company because that's cool. You're like celebrating, but it's not cool for you to say that you're leaving a company. That is just a stupid move. And it's stupid because it's just attention grabbing. It's like, I'm trying to grab attention, so I'm going to say that I'm leaving this company. Because when you say something that I'm leaving, or I'm going to part ways, or I'm going in a different direction, that attracts tea. Delicious tea. It's like, ooh, what happened? What happened? Why did she leave? What's going on? And then people are just interested because it's drama. And who doesn't love drama on a Tuesday afternoon, okay? You're drinking your Chardonnay, it's cold, you're bored out of your mind, and then you see some juicy tea. And then you're like, I want to read all about it. And then you start commenting, and then you get your jolt of dopamine because you're getting all these comments and you feel super important. But 2 days later, another thing happens and they forget all about you. But guess what? The permanent damage has been made. You already created damage to yourself. That shit's on Facebook forever. That shit's on Instagram forever. You can delete it, but guess what? The breadcrumbs come back, and you already people already shared your Facebook post. There is already breadcrumbs all over, and you can no longer contain them. You cannot find those breadcrumbs. You can no longer pick them up. So think twice before throwing breadcrumbs all over the United States that you will never find again. Instead, think about maybe don't put in the breadcrumbs, don't buy the bread in the first place. Okay? Remember, as much as we think people give two shits, they don't. Okay? If you're leaving a company, then leave the company and then go to the other company and then post how you're doing this other company, you're with this new company. And then you can say something great like, I'm announcing this new company, blah, blah, blah. I'm joining them. I'm really excited to share this with you guys. I'm looking forward to new experiences. And then in the comments, people will say, oh, but I thought you were with this company. What happened? And then you can say, nothing happened at all. Nothing negative. Nothing is going on at all. There is just nothing but love and appreciation for the other company. There is times in your life where you have a fork in front of you, a fork in life, and you want to make a decision. Sometimes you're craving a change. Sometimes you're craving a need or a creative outlet that you might want to explore, and therefore you're exploring it because it's your career. It's okay to explore different things. So it's okay. You don't want to be joining competing companies every week, right? Like, it's like, would you marry a guy that's been divorced 8 times? No. But if would you marry a guy who's been divorced once? Maybe. Would you marry a guy that's been divorced twice? You start to think about it. Would you marry a guy that's been divorced 3 times? Absolutely not. Would you marry a guy that's been divorced 4, 5, 6 times? But they're rich? Absolutely. You would be right there getting your measurements done for your wedding and make sure that you are ready to go for that wedding. But in reality is you start losing trust. Nobody cares. Okay? So don't do that. If you have to leave a company, don't write that you're leaving. Just write that you're joining a new company. And when the comments come, do not do anything that can throw the other company under the bus. You want to keep that bridge intact. Talking about bridges, let me go back to my analogy that a sponsorship is a bridge, and it's a long bridge between you being a total stranger to that company and you being part of the company's family. That bridge has to be crossed slowly and with time. If you rush that, if you try to rent a bike, you're going to be rushing that relationship. You're not going to give it time to flourish. If you rent an e-bike and that e-bike can go 35, 40 miles per hour, you are further damaging the potential of an organic relationship. Let these things brew. And the only shortcut you can take is not by renting a bike or an e-bike or an electric scooter to get through the bridge faster. It's by you constantly and blindly providing valuable content to your audience constantly. Okay? Being in the same sphere as these companies representatives that are in charge of choosing sponsors is a major part of the game. But that game cannot even start unless they see you as an authority figure that's respected. The chances of you becoming a respected individual because you're providing content on YouTube, Facebook, or TikTok, it's going to take a while. That's why it's better to just walk the bridge, give it time to develop, let them see you coming from far away, and then you slowly work your way towards the other end of the bridge. If they see you coming at the beginning of the bridge and 2 seconds later you're right in their face, they'll be like, what the hell? Who are you? What's going on? It's too much. Restraining order, police report. Don't do that. Give it time. A true, beautiful relationship with a company, it's going to take time. It could take years to do. Doesn't have to. It can take months, but it usually takes years for the good relationships. And you want only good relationships. You don't want to be a sponsorship whore where you take every sponsorship that comes your way just because you're starting to grow your name. Companies sometimes especially startups, are going to start up their businesses and they're going to try to grab as many photographers to their sponsorship program as they can. And they're not going to take good care of you because they don't even have the money to take good care of you. Okay? They're basically hiring as a sponsor everyone with a heartbeat. And that's not a good approach. And remember, the more sponsorships you have, the more of a sponsorship whore you become. So choose carefully, be true to yourself about which companies totally align with your career and your vision and your goals, and stick to those and really just cement those relationships. Let those relationships flourish. Give them time, give them love, give them care, which takes me to the next and last point. When you do become sponsored by a company, show appreciation, okay? Show appreciation. Remember, relationships are not just win-win, okay? But there has to be a sense of appreciation. That's a key component most photographers don't do. They simply say, okay, you're going to give me gear and I'm going to sign a contract and I get a paycheck or whatever the contract may be. And then I will provide you the 2 or 3 reels and a YouTube video and I will talk about your product on my speaking engagements for 20 minutes, whatever it is. That's contractual. That's part of your contract. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about outside of your contract. You keep fostering those relationships by showing true appreciation. In the great words of Dale Carnegie, How to Make Friends and Influence People, it says that when you are a person that's perceived that you are caring, that you're a person that shows care, shows love, shows friendship, smiles a lot, you become more attractive to those people. They want to hang out with you. You attract positivity, okay? When a person gets an opportunity to speak at a booth for a company and you do a great job, that's trust. That's trust. You did a great job. They expected you. They trusted you that you would do a great job. That's a huge part of that. Remember, trust, respect, friendship, and appreciation. Those are your 4 things you need to know, okay? The fact that you're already at their booth is because they respect you. The fact that you did a great job is because they trust you and they trust that you're a professional and you're going to come through. But the appreciation, that's the true cherry on top. That's the little salt. That's the little finishing touches of a relationship. That's when they feel not only did you comply with your contract, but you did a great job because they trusted that you would, because you're reliable. But you're also going outside of your way and showing appreciation. So show appreciation. Write them a thank you card. Write them something. Say something to them like, I know you have choices. I appreciate you choosing me, whatever. It just shows humility, and humility is something that the photo industry needs a little bit more of, okay? When you're a person that's humble, people are going to be attracted to you. When you're an asshole and you just like stuck up and all into yourself and you're just like a greedy ass, you know what? That's going to attract some people, but the wrong type of people. So guys, I hope this little chat about dealing with sponsorship helps. It is truly a game of checks and balances. It is pull and push. There is benefits to being sponsored by companies. There's also drawbacks to being sponsored by companies. How you approach a company is the same way you approach a girl you're trying to marry. And if you want to go above and beyond and foster that relationship, you need to add a new ingredient. The ingredients are build friendship, build trust, and build respect. Okay. And respect is given by providing value. Trust is given by being reliable. And the friendship is being by being in their circles and being humble and being a person you want to be friends with. Don't talk about yourself all day. Talk about how you what you talk about the other person, talk about the company, talk about something else other than just yourself. There will be plenty of opportunities for you to talk about what you're doing. But when you're trying to foster that relationship, keep it about other people. Genuinely be interested in other people. Okay, be a person that's listening. Do not be on your phone while they're talking to you. That's obvious. I'm not even going to discuss that. But I'm just saying. And the little sprinkle of cherries on top is when you show appreciation when you don't even have to because you complied with your contract. When you complied with your contract, nobody's expecting you to write them a thank you card. Okay. But how far will that go for you to get a thank you card saying, I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to speak at your booth. I had a great time. This was a beautiful year. I loved the booth. What you guys did was great. It was so great for me to be a part of that. I feel like I have such a great team behind me with this company. Bam. You do that, people are going to absolutely love you. Okay. So, the guys, I hope that helps. We'll see you next time. Don't forget, check out the workshops I'm teaching in for posing and also lighting at robertoworkshops.com. I am doing two, one in New York and one in LA this October 2025. And I'm also asking you to check out the Photo Creators Conference, which is a conference that I created to maximize the learning and retention of information for people that are serious about taking their photography and becoming masters of what they do. We do have fun. We have the greatest time. It's at a dude ranch in Tucson in the summer, but it's really designed for people that want to learn how to become great photographers, not just average or medium or to go on a photo walk or something like that. This is designed for people that are serious about learning. They're tired of spending money on gear. They want to actually make money on photography. This is where you go. The Photo Creators Conference. Just type it on Google. The link will show up. But we invite you guys to come and check it out. With that, see you later. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.